In this video, we'll go through the complete setup of the OMPHOBBY M1 V3 PRO using the new Mikado SBus receiver for micro helicopters. OMPHOBBY have published VControl transmitter files to get the best out of this setup, so we'll download and install those files to the transmitter and then install the receiver to the model, bind the transmitter to it and then set it up so it's completely ready to fly with telemetry, so you can fly to battery capacity used instead of using a timer. First, here's a quick look at the micro receiver. It comes with a little sticky pad and an instruction sheet. As you can see, there's a couple of plugs that will connect into the flight controller board. We're going to get this opened up and ready to install. The first step is to go to the OMPHOBBY website and download the OFS3 VBar setup files from their support section under radio files. So support and radio files, and then here we are, OFS3 VBar setup. You've got a PDF file which is just the instructions, or you've got the zip which is the instructions in that PDF file and the two files to install on the transmitter. So we'll download this file into your computer's downloads folder. Save that. And then that will download, and then you can go into the zip file and we've got the PDF full of instructions, which is a really good resource to read through if you get stuck anywhere. And then we have these two files here ending macro for one of them and VBasic for the other, and we're going to transfer those over to the VControl transmitter file system, which we'll do next. To transfer the files over to the VControl, you've got to connect the VControl to your computer. So we use the USB cable for that. And then power it on. We go into settings and put it into USB stick mode. And then the computer will recognize that, and then we can access the file system to copy the files over. Switch over to the desktop screen. We now have the file system of the transmitter here and the files that we downloaded from the OMP website here. So the macro file will go into, let me just make this a bit smaller, like so. So we've got a macro folder and we have a VBasic folder. The macro file will copy into the macro folder and the VBasic file we'll put in the VBasic folder. As you can see, I've already got them in there, so I'm not going to bother recopying them over, but that's where they go. VBasic into the VBasic folder, macro into the macro folder, and that will be everything copied across. Next, we'll quickly go through the OFS3 Plus Flight Controller settings so that it's ready for us to connect and set up the VBar Micro Receiver. We'll also enable a telemetry option here. For safety, I'll just quickly remove the main and tail blades from the model and we'll get the Bluetooth connected. With the Bluetooth dongle connected to the model, plug in the battery and open the OMPHOBBY app on your mobile. Apply the power. Connect to the device and it will load the settings in as normal. Once it's loaded, we can scroll down to the bottom of this page to where it says receiver and telemetry. Click that one and scroll down. Under the SBus range, we need that to be set to Futaba. Tick that on, and then we can enable the VBar control telemetry just below it and hit save. And we can go back a page there. Now the OMPHOBBY user guide for this process also highlights an option that you can tweak for maximum performance. It's optional, but if you want to do this, go to the advanced settings and scroll down to the deadband settings. Set the value to 4 for each of roll, pitch and yaw, and then click save again. 4 and 4. Click save. And that's it. The app side of this is done. All we need to do next is plug in the receiver and go through the VControl bind and setup. The VBar SBus Micro Receiver has two plugs to connect to the OFS3 Plus Flight Controller. One has 3-pin plug and the other has a 4-pin plug. The OFS3 user guide has a diagram of the OMPHOBBY M1 V3 PRO version of the OFS3 Plus Flight Controller on page 14, which we can see here. This shows all of the connections nicely labelled for easy identification. We're going to be connecting the 3-pin plug to the SBus port and the 4-pin plug to the CRSF port. Make sure you get the plugs in the correct orientation to avoid damaging the pins in the sockets. They are offset to one side, so the plugs are keyed. Make sure you get them the right way around, or you can bend and damage the pins. So here we go. 3-pin plug, pin orientation. The yellow wire will follow the yellow wire of the servos for the common power rail between the other two. We'll connect that one into the SBus port, and the white wire will be the same side, black wire to the negative side for the power for the CRSF port, and that is installed. Next, we need to power on the receiver and wait for it to enter bind mode. Apply the power. These have a tiny little LED right here. When that starts flashing multicolours, like red, green, like that, that's in bind mode. Turn the transmitter on and bind like normal. There we go. That's bound, and then it starts up the new model wizard. And click create new model, and then we're just going to scroll across and just choose the SBus model option. There's nothing else we need to do here other than we can give the model a name. It's going to send all the data over to configure this. Ready to go. You can create a new battery for the model at this stage, or come back and do that later. Change the model name. That'll do for me. And that's the binding setup. The next step is to install the VBar VBasic setup model file that we downloaded from the OMPHOBBY website and install the Macrocell setup, which is all very easy to do. So power the model up. Let it connect up, and then we go into, go into the battery screen, model, tools, load setup, and the model that we loaded in was the OFS3 file. We select that, load VBasic setup, click yes, let it send all of that data over. Once that one's done, we come out of model tools and go into Macrocell setup menu and load Macrocells, and again it's the OFS3 Macrocell settings, load Macrocells. Once the screen's finished loading, it's good to go. As you said, don't need to do that. The way we can check that everything is correct is under flight parameters. Aileron, elevator and rudder will all be set to 65 on agility and 0 on exponential. like so. Those are the default settings that marry up best with the flight controller settings, so that you can then set your agilities in the app to get the best out of the model and make it fly how you want to fly. So that's the default setup complete, and you're now good to go and fly the model. Secure the receiver first, of course. If you want to adjust pitch curves between banks, you can edit those in Macrocells 33, 34 and 35, which are the cells that control the collective pitch curves for banks 1, 2 and 3 respectively. So Macrocell 33 is the pitch curve for bank 1. If we go into the Macrocells and have a quick look, Macrocell setup, edit, we scroll down to 33, 4 and 5, you can see that's a curve. And by default, it's just a linear line, and all three are the same by default. If you wanted to, for example, have reduced negative pitch in bank 1, you could come into cell 33 here and reduce that negative value up a bit towards 0, and that will reduce your negative pitch in that bank. I'm going to leave that at default. The final thing we want to do, now that we have telemetry, is to set up a battery. In order to do that, the simplest way is to power the model up, wait for it to connect, and then click the new battery button. I'm just going to call this 400 2S, like so. It's a 2-cell, it is a HV battery, so 4.35 volts. I'm going to use 80% and it's a 400 capacity. Close that. And now when we power the model up, we can select the battery and fly to the capacity being used. Once it connects up and sets, battery, select. I've been setting this up a while, it's no longer full. Just click away from that, and there we go. We now have telemetry for the battery usage for the flight. The last thing that we need to do here is to quick check, make sure all the RPMs are working. Select the battery, don't worry about the warning, and so we're in bank 1, and if we enable motor, it'll spool up. That's why we don't have blades on.
Bank 2.
Bit more head speed.
Bank 3.
Bit more head speed.
Motor off.
And that's working. And then when we disconnect after a flight, we'll get the telemetry end screen showing how much current you've pulled, how much battery you've got left, and so on.